Podcast, the show where we dive deep into the topics that directly impact the evolving originator. I'm your host, Connor Bartley. Bam! And joining me today is someone who closed over 200 loans in a single year, completely solo. No CRM, no assistant, no system behind him, just his own memory and a calling routine that he ran like clockwork. He's a self-described nerd who built a $250 million niche from scratch, watched it disappear overnight, and then rebuilt his entire business model from the ground up. Josh Sanford, welcome to The Lowdown.
Thank you so much for having me. Super excited to be here.
Absolutely, man. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. You're a very interesting guy. I've enjoyed getting to know you in the short time that we've talked. And just for the guests that are listening, I kind of want to take it back to the beginning of things. You started out in the car business, got recruited into mortgage by a customer, and then spent years as someone's assistant before ever really originating on your own. What did those early years teach you that you're still using today?
Man, Connor, honestly, everything. The years I had, so I finished college in 2023 and started mortgage pretty much right after in 2014. So it was my first kind of real job after college. While I was going to college, I was working full time for a car dealership. And just as you said, one of my customers was a real estate agent. I was desperate to get out of the car business, and she said, "Hey, you should go talk to my loan officer. She's looking for an assistant." Funny enough, I was also getting bullied by my fiance's mom into buying a house at the same time. And so it was kind of a package deal. Mickey helped me buy my house, and then as soon as we closed, she hired me to be her assistant. And then we worked together from 14 to 19. And I got to watch her career go from being a loan officer, us, doubling the business in a year. Then she got an opportunity to be a branch manager, then growing the branch, and then where she decided to spin off and become an area manager. So those years really taught me like the entire evolution of a loan officer's career just smashed into, 5 years basically.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, it's really important. I think a lot of people underestimate the importance of being aligned with the right people early in your career. This is something that comes up over and over again on the lowdown, where top performers in this industry tend to get started with other top performers, and it just raises the standard. It raises the bar of production. It helps people see the amount of work ethic that it takes to be successful, because you can land in any branch in this industry, and if it's in a kind of a mediocre scenario where no one's really performing at a high level, your introduction into the business is that, right? And so when you can get into an environment that's just humming from the get-go, then it really gives you an advantage, in my opinion, as an originator. But sort of fast forwarding to where we are today, well, let's take it back a couple of years, because you built this $1 billion like relocation niche.
Yeah.
By hunting for rejected loans from new home builders across the country. If you don't mind, walk me through how that idea was born, and then how you were able to execute that.
Yeah, so it was born out of desperation, which is how most of my good ideas are formulated. Mickey went out to become an area manager, so I became a loan officer before I was really ready or wanted to or had any financial safety net. So I cashed out my whole 401k I had built up and was like, okay, I'm a loan officer now, commission only, let's do this. And I'm a nerd, I'm not that good in rooms. And so a lot of the agents that had known me from being Mickey's assistant were like, no way, we're going to give this 20-something-year-old kid the keys to the castle. And so I was like, man, I got to think of something that nobody else is doing. And so I had a product that would allow for no credit score if you were relocated to the US in the last 6 months. So that was the niche product that I decided I was going to market myself as. And so from there, I thought, well, how am I going to find all this relocation business? Because if you just hit up Microsoft or Google, they don't want to talk to you. So I thought, well, why don't I go to the source? So what's an easy way where I can help somebody? So I decided to start calling on new construction, first locally, and just say, hey, anybody that you have, like, DR Horton, right? They have their own mortgage company. Hit up those guys and say, hey, for anyone that you rejected for lack of credit score, will you just send it to me? I'll take a look at it. And the home builders loved it because I was getting, 10, 20% of those people into homes. So then they started spreading and spreading. And then I was like, man, I could do this across the whole country. So I would get to the office, start calling Florida, then work my way back to the US or back to Washington where I'm located and just work the entire country. And I was only just trying to pick up relocation clients. And then from that success, then I started getting more doors open. So then I started actually getting more referrals from Microsoft and Amazon and Google because I would ask everyone, hey, post me on your internal page. Anybody else that's getting rejected for lack of credit score, I can help them out. And so that was going so well but I had no CRM, I had no nothing. It was just one man and one phone. And so then I got my buddy Duke to start doing that with me. And then we ended up doing about $250 million a year, just two guys with doing the same idea. And that worked awesome for 19 through 22. And then 23 hit really hard. All the companies stopped hiring people, so there was no more international relocation really happening. And so that business went from, about 270 million to about 50 million overnight. And so 23 was a really rough year for me. I spent months wallowing, laying on the floor, trying to think of what this new idea would be. Duke and I decided to run two different experiments at the same time. So hired two different coaches, tried two different models. It ended up that the model I was going after worked better. So then we both decided, okay, we're going to do this together again. And then it's just been a rocket ship ever since.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, one thing I want to call out about the success that you had from 19 to 2 was you were actually using the product that some loan officers might just use as like a door opener, a conversation starter, but you were actually funding loans with it. And I think that's a blind spot in a lot of the industry is we've got these really creative, nichey kind of products out there. And sometimes they're just used as like a conversation starter to get into the agent, with the agent. And we'll do a different loan down the line anyway. But you said, no, 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 no. I've got this really unique opportunity to smash it with this product because no one else has it. And I know the market for it. It solves a problem. So let's go do it. And then you just gobbled up market share with it. I think it was brilliant. And it shows a special dedication to being very specific that some people will get bored with too, right? They get kind of in this mundane, it's always the same thing every day. And sometimes in our world, it's we want to have variety. But, being that committed and disciplined to stay the path, kudos to you, man. I think that's awesome. So, the niche dried up in 2023. You made a rule that you were not going to go home until you met at least one real estate agent every day. That sounds simple in practice,
Yep.
but what made it hard and what changed about, things when you started actually doing it?
Well, I think a couple things led to that. So one, the relocation business, while great while it lasted, I was not a good servant to the real estate community. So I was pretty much completely unknown. I was doing a ton of loans, but no one knew who I was. And so I found that I have to get better known. People need to know that I'm good at doing loans, at least in my own area. And so I just went out every single day, tried to meet at least one real estate agent. So go to a different office every day, try and take somebody out to coffee, to lunch, whatever. And I think what had happened was people just saw that you were trying. And I think so many people, especially in 23, had come off of such a high refi boom, and they had also not been great servants to their real estate agents. So I think that maybe it was easier for me to break into the market as far as retail because a lot of other people had also focused on the refis during those years. Whereas I had no refis because I just started the business. So all I was doing was purchases. So I think it was easier than I thought it would be to start building that realtor network just by committing to just promising people I'll serve them. Like, I know how to do loans. I can do hundreds and hundreds of loans. Just give me a shot. Like, just, I'm not just starting out. I know what I'm doing. And I think it helped me just get confidence because I'm not a super confident guy. I'm much more of a behind the computer, crank out loans versus like meet and greet and hang out kind of guy.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you're a model of consistency. And so you took that experience and just, learning how to prospect, being in front of agents, having those conversations, and have now sort of shifted gears a little bit to where it's targeting top three teams in any given market and knowing that it might take 20 or 30 touches before you even get like an audience or a response for that matter. How do you stay patient when most people would just throw up their hands and quit?
I don't know. I think it's just ingrained in me. Even when I was a kid, I would always joke that I would be a perfect prisoner because I like eating the same thing. I like going to bed at the same time. I like a very stable, like consistent day. I grew up in a weird, like foster home lifestyle growing up, so it was very chaotic. So I love just like stability. And so I like doing everything exactly the same. And if I believe the idea will work, I just keep pushing on it because I mean, how much time does it take you to call the same guy that doesn't answer? It takes you 30 seconds. Like, you're never going to not have enough time for somebody who's not going to answer. So eventually they answer.
Yeah.
If they've been trying to get a hold of their loan officer, about a deal that's blowing up and you just keep calling them for 6 months, eventually you'll be like, dude, this guy will not let it go. He's going to close loans.
Yeah. Well, you shared a story with me when we talked earlier about there was a top producer that called you up and said, "Hey, if you can get across, if you can get to my office by this time, like I'll give you a shot." Do you mind sharing that story?
Yeah. So I had been reaching out to him for probably 6 months without a response. And then something had gone wrong with his current relationship, which he had had for a decade. And so he took my call, and it was just completely lucky timing. And he was like, "Hey, get out here tomorrow, 8:30 in the morning. It's like a 5-hour trip." And I was like, "Okay, cool, sold." And so, got up at 2 in the morning, drove out there, and had the full 30-person real estate team audience, did my pitch, got grilled, of course, and apparently did a good enough job that they gave me a shot. And then once you can land one and do a really good job with it, then that's a pretty small community of top producers, and they all are in the same network, and then it's way easier after that. Once you have one and are doing an amazing job, it's a lot easier to have them bring you up to their next big agent, the next big event.
Yeah, and it's kind of a underserved demographic too, in that a lot of people just assume that high producers are getting just flooded with sales calls and things like that. But often when you talk to them, you find that they don't get prospected as much because most people assume that they do, and they're a little intimidated and scared, and so they don't always go there. And so there could be an
Yeah.
opportunity there that to attract those types of producers. But I love that you understand the momentum of it all too, and how one can lead to another, and to just continue compounding on those past positive experiences to the point now where you've got kind of a different pitch too. Like, your approach isn't conventional. You're not going and saying, we close loans on time and we do this and I answer my phone and we got these great things and yada, yada, yada. It's like, no, connect me to your CRM and my team will outwork your salespeople. How did you figure out that that was the right angle? And how do the agents that you call on typically respond the first time they hear you say that?
The idea was born out of just investigating. So I'm like a big research guy. One of the things that Mickey taught me, because she came from corporate sales, is you usually only get one pitch. So if you get in front of the room, have your ducks in a row, understand the client, their needs, and how you can serve them. And what I was finding is the big teams were predominantly spreading out lenders. So they'd have 3, 5, however many lenders, each one trying to contribute in their own little way, but there was no real overarching partnership. So it was a lot of people that would promise they would call leads or promise they would do this or that, but mostly they were just sticking their hands out waiting for a referral. So my approach was, all of your agents are out showing houses and they're in the car. if you are a big team, you're closing 400 transactions a year, you're going to be in some level a lead-based business model. It's not your only pillar, obviously, but if you're that big, you're doing some sort of online lead generation. And so my pitch was, we're in front of the computer all the time. I'm not golfing. I'm not doing, showing houses. I'm in front of the computer. My speed to lead is going to be so much faster than yours. And we don't have like ISAs that are out of the country or virtual assistants or anything like that. We have actual mortgage people that are calling on these leads and nurturing. So the pitch is, you might have one or two virtual ISAs, and then you're asking your agents to call. But anybody that, if you use Follow Up Boss, which is my preferred CRM, if you look at agents' call counts, there will be months where they'll make 20 outbound phone calls. Like, I'm personally doing like 200 to 500 a week. So like, there's no way your team is going to be as good as my team on the nurturing. And so then pitch it, they agree, and then you prove it. And so every single team we work with, we increase conversion, increase unit counts. And that's the model that has really been working for me, is basically offering a sales support system. So yes, we do the mortgages, but what we're really doing is warming up your clients, nurturing your clients, and getting you more effective real estate agents. So like, every team has a dream that they can have, an agent closing 30, 40 houses a year, and that's what we fulfill.
Yeah. So was that always the plan when you guys sort of relaunched the team after the relocation dried up? Was it, let's go hard at big teams?
Yep.
And be
That
this
was
internal sales? That's great, man. I didn't know if that was like the plan from the get-go, or if that evolved over time and you just sort of started to reveal itself as the actual opportunity.
No, that was the plan. So the concept I came up with in like the middle of 23 after two other ideas didn't work. And then got the first one pretty quick. Then the second one took another like 6 months, and then it started like snowballing to the point where it was like, man, I need to start a branch because I have to hire more people and I need more, like, the model is labor intensive, right? It's not like you're just chilling. We're working. So you need to have the employees to be able to do it. So in 25, I spun off and created my own branch with Duke and I, and started, hiring people and bringing in loan officers and assistants and processors and all of that sort of thing. So that's the next evolution.
Yeah. So in the beginning, it was you and Duke just pounding the phone, making, the calls to pitch the idea, and then be the ISA for those that were saying yes. And man, you guys had to make 500 calls a week. That's insane. I love it. So, as a part of like your reputation being, someone who's really good with loans and structuring files, you'll even go so far as to diagnose a broken loan for someone, give them the fix, watch them take it back to your competitor, and then wait. That's a long game that a lot of people don't want to play. What is it about that? Like, what gives you the confidence to let a deal walk out the door and just know that maybe it'll come back?
Yeah, I think it's a certain amount of trust and reputation. So I don't want anyone to ever feel like I sold them on something that wasn't right for them or pushed too hard. I'm a very soft sales person. And so I get tons and tons of calls where people or agents will be like, hey, this one's not with you. This lender's saying this is a deal killer. Do you know how to fix this? And most of the time, like, the real estate agent doesn't want to change lenders and get a new close date and like start all over. So I'll just tell them how to fix it. And then, hey, if they mess it up again, then you have to send it to me. And I get a ton of those, and about 30% of them ultimately do come back. But I think what people sometimes lose sight of is this business is 100% you and your personal reputation. So if people think that you're greedy or you're trying to take everything, they're a lot less likely to want to help you. But if you just offer them the free help and fix their loans and get them that deal closed, they trust you and they'll send you way more opportunities. And so they're not always easy ones. A lot of them are scratch and dents, but there's also a lot of tricks to the trade. Like I get so many turndowns for people that have $1 million in the bank just because they don't know how to do asset depletion or do distributions or anything like that. So sometimes the fix is so easy and the other loan officer just, doesn't have the knowledge to be able to fix it. And so I always tell people like just tell me what they're telling you and then I'll tell you how you can actually fix it, because a lot of loan officers are not transparent with their customer, so they explain the core issue in a confusing way. But like I just had one earlier today, and she's getting declined for a mortgage late, but that's only a Fannie rule. All they have to do is flip the lock to Freddie, and she'll be fine. And so I'm like, hey, just tell them to flip it to Freddie. If they mess it up again, like I'll just do it. And there's just knowing the guidelines, and I think that's from my early career. Mickey made me memorize all the guidelines for like all regs and all that stuff. So I still have so much of that locked in my brain on just how to do quick fixes. And so many people don't know how to do leased land. There's a million things that loan officers don't know how to do. And if the agents trust you that you're just going to tell them how to fix it, and then if you can help, they send you way more opportunities.
Yeah. Well, I love the call out about this being a reputation business. And then just being a servant. I mean, you even said the word a couple of times, serving and servant. Um, and I love that perspective. I think some people miss that, and they get tunnel visioned on what's the next deal going to be, and they don't want to waste time on this or that because it's a problem, and so it's kind of like let's move on and let's get the next easy thing in the door. And when I just think about my own personal experiences with service providers, it's the ones that would give me the straight answer and educate me on how to make sure I didn't get screwed by somebody else that I always appreciated the most and would refer any friends and family to, even if that didn't end up being the person I went with in the end, right? Because maybe I was too far down the road with somebody or whatever. But that's the one I remember because they, did the best thing for me. So I love the call out there. Now, just to kind of switch gears a little bit, we talk about like tools in this industry and things like that. And I just mentioned something about saving time. There's a lot of time saving tools out there, right? I'm using air quotes for those that aren't watching, but anytime a loan officer, gets one of those, some can take that and really use it to its fullest advantage and do great things with it. Others might treat it like a permission to slow down instead of an opportunity to do more. You've kind of noticed that. Where did that observation come from? And what does using your time well actually look like in a day?
Yeah, I think I started to really realize that when Mickey opened up her branch back, which would have been 2016. So 2016 to 2019 is when we were starting Mickey's branch and hiring people. Um, Back then, like Zillows and all of those online lead generation stuff started really coming out strong, and a lot of people were in that business model back then. And I noticed that a lot of the people where they were not finding success, they were also not really working all that much. They were networking, they were golfing, they were, having the flexibility everyone talks about this job, but their business was more or less stagnant, even though it was, in my opinion, getting objectively easier to find customers, and the LOS was getting so much better. All the labor saving times, like even back then we started having robots that could identify your pay stubs for you and pull tax certs, and all of that sort of stuff is like massively labor saving, but they weren't grinding on the phone, which in my opinion, like the phone is still this business. You have to do everything else. You have to do digital marketing and events and all that stuff as well. But I mean, as I proved in 23, you can just start completely over again and just be one man in a phone again. In 23, I lost my assistant and everything. I was completely just a solo loan officer all over again. So if you have a concept and you know what you're going to talk about, you really can just be a man in a phone and be able to make hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. I love that. And what an awesome thing to say. Yes, a man in a phone, and you can make hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like that's a mic drop right there. So you're a young guy. You're 36. You're self-described as a workaholic. You said that the conventional coaching advice to step away from files and build a business maybe runs the opposite direction with you? Like, what does this version of this business look like that would make you happy? Like, what's fulfilling for you?
Yeah, I still really like working with customers. And I think what I'm going after is to be an excellent servant to top real estate agents and then work on the most important files. So the VIPs, the people that have an existing big relationship with these teams, and just help out the people that I find to be the most interesting or fun to work with, but have a team that follows my methodology and can offer the same level of service. But I'm not at the point, and I can't see myself in the next 5 years where I don't really want to work on loans myself. I still find the most joy by working with customers and solving loan problems, and doing complicated loans is still where I get the most joy.
Yeah. Love that, man. Well, Josh, we've talked about a lot, and I really appreciate just your perspective on this business and everything. I want to give you the opportunity here at the end to just speak your mind freely. I don't know if there's anything that we haven't, covered that you'd like to share wisdom on or perspective, but I'm going to give you the floor. So whatever you want to say.
Yeah, I think that, as you said, Connor, the way that you start in this business or who you work with is a huge indicator of where you will end up. And I would just tell everyone, if you're in a branch or a team or a system that doesn't feel like it's working, it's really hard to change. But I think I stayed in places that did not offer very much support longer than I should have because I was so scared of change. But I think having the right community around you is so important. And if I was a young loan officer coming in, I would absolutely try and find the team that most aligned with where I want to be. Not everybody wants to be a top producer. Not everybody wants to work all these hours and all of that sort of thing. But finding a structure that you can see yourself in, I believe the industry is going to change drastically in the next 10 years. And so I think having the right alignment will be more important than ever. There's going to be the people that are mostly focusing on relationships and non-QM and have kind of a traditional commission structure in my imagination. And then there's going to be people that are going to be focusing on Fannie Freddie government loans. And I believe that that structure is going to get more and more and more competitive, and those commissions and margins are going to get compressed over the years. But AI will likely make it a lot easier to do loans. So I think you should really be trying to figure out how you can be in one of the two angles. I don't know if you'll be super successful doing both things.
Yeah, I love that, and I think the conventional, Govy, Fannie Freddie, that approach is really going to be about having the best systems and processes in place to manufacture and having the ability to handle the capacity. Because I mean, to your point, margins compress, commissions go down. But the team is on the rise. So how do we make the same amount of money or more? We got to do more loans. But as long as it's easier to do more loans, it all works out in the end. And I think we'll see less loan officers in the future as well, and more loan officers supported by large teams. So you'll have like the franchise guy, the face of the franchise, and then the team behind them that lets them do 300 units a year, or whatever that number might be. Anyway, love it, man. Well, Josh, I want to say thank you for being on the lowdown and kind of sharing your story with the audience here. It's been great having you on, and look forward to seeing where you go with everything, and just follow you along and cheer you from the sidelines, man. But thanks for being on.
Yeah, thank you so much, Connor. It's been an absolute pleasure. See ya.